Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited about our episode today. Long time coming before I introduce you to our guest. Here is a quote just for this episode. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. Friedrich Nietzsche. Our guest today, a high flyer, a winner, a leader, an advisor, a great friend of mine and early supporter of Culture Matters. My early wings were clipped. He was one of the founding people to help me unclip those wings, get in just by being there and being great at what he does. For over 20 years, he's been at least 20 years. He's been an advisor to his clients, very hard working expert as it relates to the business of debt, which also is the opportunity for home ownership and investment and all great things. Man, there's so much to say. Our guest today works deeply with the great friend of the podcast we all love, our dear friend Bill Mervin, as well for a long time. If you listen to the show regularly, you know Bill. And I'm so happy to have Jeff Winick here. Um, Man, thanks for coming on after all these years. It's going on almost 9 years, maybe 8 years that we've known each other.
Wow, is it that long?
But yeah, it's getting up there.
Wow.
So I'm grateful to be able to do this all these years later. And another one last thing I'll say, but Jeff was early in, putting himself out there on videos and putting up with me with all those years ago doing that. I think it's another reason I chose that quote. So I thought, yeah, it felt right for this episode. So thanks for seeing me and believing and being that guy. And I'm sure that you've been that for your customers over the years.
Well, I try, and thanks for having me on, Jay. And it's good to see you. It's great to see you. And yeah, we do want to, keep Bill in our thoughts. So shout out to Bill Mervin. Yeah, I learned a lot back then when we first were working together with Culture Matters. And I still use some of the tools that I learned from back then. And I think it helped my business, and it helped me grow a lot with a lot of those pointers that you gave me. So I appreciate it.
Well, have you always been someone to think outside the box, or is that even the right label? Like, I'm presuming like you're someone that thinks outside the box. So that's my first question. Then also, seeking learning, seeking to understand. Would you consider yourself like a curious person by nature, or did that come later? So I guess there's two questions there.
Yeah, no, I always was curious, and I always did think outside the box. However, when it came to my business, being in the mortgage business, when you've been doing something for so long, because I started the mortgage industry in the mortgage business in 2003. So when you're doing something for so long, you tend to forget to think outside the box in that respect. So I would think outside the box just in terms of other areas of life, health and spirituality and philosophy. But when it came to work, I was doing the same thing for so long that I don't know if I was thinking outside the box as much in my professional career. And I did, sort of relearn some of that from you. And then, I think I do it more now than I ever did before, because a lot of my mortgage, early mortgage life was, take leads, build a relationship with that client, convert the lead, help them get the mortgage, and then move on to the next. Whereas now it's a lot more solving problems, solving difficult problems, and
Mhm.
you know, and then finding a solution to that problem and being willing to tackle that challenging that challenging problem, that challenging loan, commercial, residential, whatever it may be. Bill would always say, be careful, you don't want to take on a loan, a challenge that's, too difficult because you'll spend all your time on that one file. But to a degree, it's like when you really love helping people and you love the challenge, sometimes it's hard for me to pass up sometimes. So in other words, it's not just
Mhm.
about how much money I could make, right? At this point in my career. So,
Well, first question on that is maybe some listeners that aren't tuned into they haven't even bought a home yet or an investment property, or they have, and then they're thinking, well, how challenging could it be?
oh boy.
Oh yeah, I want to
Yeah.
dig into that. Yeah.
It's like talking to a teenager. Let's say somebody's 15, 16, 17 years old, and they've never been in a relationship before. And they say, well, Jay, Jeff, whoever they're talking to, how challenging could a relationship be? It's like that. It's like, you could be in a relationship and it could be smooth sailing, and then you could just realize you guys just weren't meant to be and you move on to the next one, right? Or you could be in the most challenging situation of your entire life, times a million. And that's what like being in the mortgage industry is like in a way, because sometimes it develops to be so much more challenging than you might be aware, especially on the investing side, on the investment side. When you're buying a home to live in, a primary home, it's a little bit less challenging, because you need to be able to show that you can pay back the mortgage, to make it simple. An investor doesn't always need to show that they could pay back the mortgage, because the property could pay the mortgage instead of the investor. So it just opens up the Pandora's box to possibilities.
Wow.
And I, without getting into too much complicated detail, it definitely like just sort of adds mazes of challenges, with that situation between appraisal and you know, um, condition of the property, and there's all these kinds of things that pop up. So I just, I don't know if I didn't do it on purpose, intentionally, but just over the years, I just became sort of the guy to call when the realtor or client can't um, get the loan closed. The current bank, the current mortgage
Wow.
company can't help the client. Maybe Jeff can help. So whatever it is, like, miracle mortgage worker or mortgage wizard, or I joke around. I say I'm the lender's lender.
Wow.
I'm just able to um you know I've been I've been good at finding solutions to tough situations. So it makes it a little bit tough, but it also is rewarding. And my business, especially on the commercial side, commercial properties, have definitely grown from being able to do this. I know you like quotes. I think Elon Musk said, if you want to make a lot of money, yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if you want to make a lot of money, solve a problem that's very difficult to solve.
Mm.
And that's what I do in my business. I solve problems that promise you can call 50 lenders and they'd all have a hard, not that none of them could do it, but they all have a very tough time solving those problems. So that's sort of one of my specialties.
How much of that has to do with the distinction between salesperson and advisor?
It's both. It's like the yin and yang, you need both. You can't just be a salesperson, because eventually things will just crumble. And you have to do what's best for the client. So if you're just a salesperson, you're only making a lot of money. I'm doing a loan for a church right now. They're buying a $2 million church in Central Jersey, Middlesex County. And I'm talking to the lender that I'm working with. I found the guy the best deal, let's say. And the lender's like, yeah, he's like, well, how come you're only charging such a small fee? And I'm like, because it's a church. They're trying to do the right thing in life. I don't want to charge too much. He's like, I can't believe it. He's like, most brokers charge 3 points. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that to a church. So
Wow.
you have to be, if you're just a salesperson, you don't care. You're just, you're trying to charge her 3 points, right? So you have to be an advisor. You have to care about the client, I think, and advise them on what's the best for them, not what's the best for me, for a commission. And they'll see through it. I mean, people are smarter than they let on. And then you have to be a salesperson because you have to convince them to take the right advice that I feel like I'm giving them and to go with me versus another lender. So if you're not both, you're not making it in my line of work, or
Mm.
at least you're not doing what's best for the client, which you have to do that.
Why? Why is that important?
Well, I mean, what's really important in life, is it just if what's really important in life is to just always do what's best for yourself, then the world will never get anywhere. Then the world will never grow. Actually, it'll go backwards, right? You can't live life by doing what's best for yourself. You start out that way, but I was telling you before we went on, like having kids changed me to where I think about my kids first instead of myself first. When you're talking to a client and your job is to help that client, you should think about that client first. If everybody tried to be their best version of themselves, which is all we really can be in life, is the best version of ourselves, then you're trying to do what's best for other people, not just for what's best for yourself. I'm not saying don't care about yourself and don't try to help yourself and improve yourself, but I'm saying you want to help others. So if we're being the best version of ourselves and we're trying to help others, then that's all that we can do. And that's the way as a planet that will grow, and eventually, get out of this, ego, money, greed, these things, jealousy, lust, whatever, these things that hold us back, as a human species. Because the only way that we're going to get out of all the problems we have is to grow ourselves and work on and be the best version of ourselves. And then over time, over generations, we'll become a more spiritual,
Mm.
society as a planet, basically, to get a little philosophical. But that's to me that's the whole point of living, is to
Mm.
be a better person. And there's somebody that said, true happiness lies in making others happy. End of quote.
Wow. When you were a young child, did you have pictures around your bed of money and debt and mortgages?
I think I had like Michael Jordan and women in from Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, like stuff like that. I didn't know what a mortgage was. Um,
Yeah, like what did you want to be? And then what was that path to end up being this fixer?
um, not a planned path. I wanted to be like a my childhood thing was like a basketball player, and I never made it past 5'6" my whole life. So that's unlikely. And I graduated from college. I went to Rutgers College in New Brunswick, and had no clue what I wanted to do. Just I knew I wanted to get a degree for more money. Graduated with a degree in psychology, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I lived with an ex-girlfriend, and I was like, well, let's move to New York City or Philly because I'll get a good job and living in a city. Looked at the cost of rent in New York City. I looked at the cost in Philly. Like, we're moving to Philly. So I moved to Philly, got a one studio and renting house for $800 a month back then. Started delivering for Domino's, and it's unbelievable. I was able to support me and my girlfriend delivering for Domino's Pizza, completely support her. She was going to school, graduate school, to show you how the cost of living has changed, right?
Whoa.
Unbelievable. That's all I was doing for money, nothing else. And we were fine too. We weren't struggling. It's crazy. Um,
Wow.
that was in '03, and fell into the mortgage industry. My cousin said, "Hey, try mortgages." I gave it a try. I didn't make any money for 6 months. I just learned the business. but I didn't have to because I had no bills, I had no kids, and I was doing it ever since. Um, so I just kind of fell into it, and I just started really enjoying the career. And I found so many differences within the career that as years went on, I started gravitating towards what I enjoyed doing. And then over the last, I would say, almost 10 years working with Bill also, I've been all referrals, and I'm doing what I mostly love doing in the business, which is mostly talking to people that were referred to me. So it's less salesman, more relationship, and just solving problems and helping people get their mortgages. Trying to do a little less computer work and more talking to people. Because obviously, I mean, that's my preference. I don't, I rather talk to people and help people and, solve those challenging problems from sort of a macro perspective than spend all my time getting on the computer and filling out, this is your address, this is your name on a mortgage
Yeah,
application. It's just not as fun to me. So I say I do I spend a lot of my time with the part of the business that I enjoy doing, which is awesome, and it's intentional. And I got only only great things to say about my career because I it's true freedom, my career. I want to jump on a podcast. I want to take a week off. I want to, work from, you know, anywhere I want on the planet. I want to sleep in, whatever I want to do. I don't have any, handcuffs. I'm my own, I'm completely my own boss. And I mean, I work a lot because I choose to and I enjoy it. Um, but it feels like my career does feel like freedom to a degree, especially when you think of the person has to get up this time and they have to be at their job and they they can't look on their phone or I get a call from my wife. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I could take the call. So I feel like I have a lot of freedom, and it's I don't have to be I'm not in a warehouse lifting heavy boxes like no offense to anyone that does that, but to me that's not it's not what I want. If I want to work out, I'm going to go to the gym. I don't want to have to do it at a job. So I feel like I have a lot of freedom, and I'm very grateful.
wow. What what advice do you have to our listeners on how to build a referral business?
Well, you have to wow your client, and ask for referrals. And when you ask for referrals, you're asking the person that you're working with or helped, you're asking the person that referred you that person, and like the referral source. And you're asking them, do they know anyone else that I can help? And if they do, you want them to give you those names and numbers right then and there. Everybody lives in a world of sort of an ADD, out of out of sight, out of mind world. When you're asking for referrals, if they say yeah, you need to get those referrals that at that moment, right? And then when they give you those referrals, you reach out at that moment because you don't want to forget to reach out. So you ask, you receive when you ask, then you reach out, and then if you connect with someone, they're going to either say, if you connect with someone, they're going to say they can talk now or talk later. Obviously, if they talk later, you want to make sure to set a reminder and reach out to them. And if you don't connect, then you set a reminder yourself to try again at another time, another day. So just these little tips.
Really great.
If you do them consistently, and it sounds obvious in a way, but if you do them consistently, it works. I can't tell you how many reminders I set for myself. I have 4 calendars, 2 on my phone, 2 on the computer. It doesn't matter which one I use because whichever one's accessible to me, I'll use. But I'm always setting myself reminders to call people because following up is a big part of it. Bless you. And then if you and then if once you do connect with them, you want to obviously reference the person that referred that, to you, and, talk them up a little bit. Most of the time they'll agree with you because they'll already know that person. If they just met that person, it's good for them to learn. Hey, you know, Greg just sent me over. He's a great realtor. Oh, I just met Greg. I just met him in the park. I don't know him. Well, let me tell you, he's been doing this for over 20 years. He's a great negotiator. He'll push to get you the lowest price. He cares about his clients. He's experienced. Sometimes just a 10-second conversation like that helps them trust the person who referred, you to them. So those would be my little tips as far as building, to starting to build a network. And then you got to stay in touch with which something I got to do a better job of myself because I'm so busy. Um Staying in touch with those referral sources, over the years because they're going to always be a sphere of influence for you, whatever industry that you're in. If you're in the mortgage industry, you want to stay in touch with your realtors, and um, if you're a realtor, you want to stay in touch with those investors, or whatever the case may be. So, um, those are some of the little tips that I would say off the top of my head.
Do you have a number that you try to aim for an ask, like where it's too much to ask or too little to ask? Like as it relates to like, hey Bob, if you knew someone that I could help, who would they be? And Bob gives you the person, and following your advice, you call them immediately, right? Is it all right? And then in that same conversation, all right, who else you got? Or is it like you know, a week later ask for another? Or do you don't know, is one enough? Is two too many? Is three? I'm curious of your advice on that too.
Well, it obviously depends who you're talking to,
Like open up your
what
cell
you're
phone right now and get,
who you're talking to, what industry you're in, and you can tell. Usually 90% of the time, you can tell if that person's got to go right away or not, right? If you're talking to them. So if it's not that kind of situation where they got to run into another meeting, um, when I ask her, do you know anyone that could help? I'm basically, looking for 2 to 3 people. The reason why I say 2 to 3 is because it's easy. If you're working with a lot of people, it's easier to think of 2 to 3 people than it is to think of 5 or 6 people.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm usually asking for like 2 to 3 people if I could tell they're not in a rush. If they're in a rush, then I'm not gonna ask anymore. I might ask at a different time. Um, that's sort of what I usually do. It's like, a couple of names, 2 to 3 names. Bob, so and so, he'd be great, awesome. Do you know anyone else? Before I reach out to Bob, if not, no biggie. But it's like if you have a good relationship with that person, then it will never hurt to ask. And the biggest problem that I think salespeople make is they don't ask. I think it's just that simple. You forget to ask. I forget. I mean, I do it. You forget to ask, and it's like I should be asking everybody. Jay, do you know anybody looking to invest and buy a property? You probably know
Oh my
somebody.
God, so many. I'm writing them
I can
down.
help those people, right?
Yeah.
I didn't ask you before we came on the show, right? So it's like you forget to ask, but if you're really, one of the best ways, is to always ask, and those, yeah, you ask for referral sources too, not just for clients, right?
Something that I started doing as a consequence of getting to learn. It's like I learned as much from you as you acknowledged earlier, but I get to learn from the people that I'm serving. Like
Mhm.
that's one of the joys of, and I learned about myself this year. I started writing as my heart became more open and my awareness. As I'm listening to a guest, I'm like writing down who I need to introduce them to. Because I started introducing guests to each other.
Hmm.
It's a love language of mine. I didn't really realize I had.
Hmm.
But like it goes both ways. It's like, who can I, who does Jeff need to know? We were talking earlier before we recorded, like, there's somebody I wish I introduced you to.
Yeah.
They're no longer with us. That's like a wake up call. Like, why don't they know everybody? Oh, because I didn't introduce them. So
Well,
that
it's
was, anyway,
also,
that comes to mind. Like, I started writing down, like, who do I need to, who's Jeff need to meet? And doing that exercise, oh my God, it gets overwhelming in an exciting way because it's like I had someone on the show yesterday and I had 14 people in a list that they should know. Like, how the heck am I
Wow.
gonna do this?
Yeah, I mean, yes, some people have a lot more connections than others, like someone like yourself, I probably wouldn't limit it in my mind to two or three people. Um, you know what I mean? So it just depends, right? But you don't want to overwhelm somebody and try to take up all their time just, saying, oh, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? So you also kind of do it sort of, I don't know.
No, that's a great point because I'm talking about how many can I give versus how many can I ask for.
Hmm.
This is great reminder for me. One thing I've never actually I'm not this so I took notes what you just said. I want to share my notes of what because I'm not doing what you're saying. I've only matured to the point where I'm giving. I haven't matured. That's why I asked the question, like, how are you getting these referrals in a way that because you have a strong ethic, moral compass. So these are my notes. You said you ask for the resource, you ask them, but you said you get it now and you reach out immediately. And then you said you they either if they can either talk now or they can talk later. If it's later, you have to follow up. So you set reminders, multiple. And if you get on the phone with them because you followed up, you make sure you acknowledge the referral source.
Hmm.
That's my like I drew it out like
Yeah.
I, well, it's very logical, very helpful because I need to do that.
Yeah, and you say something, you sort of edify the referral source. I mean, you want to be honest, right? If the referral source is not good at some things but good at others, you're going to talk about what they're good at, right? So this way, you're not lying about anything. You're being honest, and like I said, that person might know the referral source, then they'd agree with you and feel good about you and them because you just validated their opinion, or they don't know the referral source and you're helping them to know this is the right realtor, this is the right financial advisor, this is the right accountant, whatever that you want to work with anyway, which helps your referral source and the client and yourself. So that's why you kind of want to you want to utilize those techniques. Um, and it's nice to hear that what you say, because we all learn from each other. So I just wanted to say it's cool that you said, you learn from your guests as well, because it's like the information goes both ways, right? So you're always learning from them and they're always learning from you. So I just wanted to say something to that. Um,
Yeah, guests,
yeah.
clients, everybody. Even if I'm not, that's one of the joys of. Well, I'm sure. Like, um, is that part of what you mentioned the challenge? Right. I want to speak to that. It's like because I was taking a course last night on Peterson Academy, the first course, and the personality lectures he has now. And at the end of the first lecture, they talked about this idea of the personal quest. It's
Hmm.
like if we find something interesting to ourselves, it'll call to us.
Hmm.
It's like when you mentioned and like pay attention to that because our body knows what we are like we know what we want beyond even our awareness. So like when you talked about the challenge, you enjoy the challenge. Would you say that yeah, that resonates with the idea of the personal quest? It's like it's something you enjoy. You lose track of time
Oh yeah,
while you're doing it.
100%. When I'm working on the like specific loans that I'm thinking of, it doesn't feel like work, and it's like watching a Netflix show. The time just goes by. And it feels like it's so much fun because it's so challenging. And it's also so at the same time, I don't know if this is by chance or divine, or it just also happens to be the most financially rewarding at the same time, as
Mm,
far as the largest commissions for me. So
wow.
it's like the largest commission and the most challenging. It's so much fun to do. So I've been working with a builder, and the builder would buy land and then would build vertical construction apartment buildings, right? And to get these types of loans, you need experience doing so, having already done that, to make a long story short. He didn't have that experience. So he went to lender after lender, broker after broker. Broker would go to other brokers, would go to all these different lenders. Couldn't help him. Couldn't help him build something over 4 units. And then he met me, and I told him I'll find it for him. And he didn't believe me or think so. He's been a builder for over 30 years. Um, and I got it done for him. I think our first one was a 12 unit that he built, 12 unit apartment building
Wow.
in Philadelphia. And he couldn't believe it because he went to so many banks and so many lenders and so many brokers who went to so many banks. And I told him I would find it for him, and he didn't believe me. And that was so rewarding, the not just the end result, but the journey of being able to get it done for him. I mean, very challenging to me, more challenging than like anything else I could try. Like I could do something in a different way, like a P90X or something like that. But to me, this was even more challenging. And it was so much fun. And then I helped him get a loan to build a 30 unit apartment building, a 9 unit, and the list goes on. And these loans are very hard to find in this economy. It's very hard to find private funding for ground up construction right now. This type of builder isn't showing their tax returns to be able to go to a bank to do it. So you got to use private money, like hard money, let's say. And it's very, very difficult. And the more difficult it is, the more I'm like, yes, let me find the solution. And it's just exactly what you said. It's I didn't plan this. It wasn't like something I wrote out and knew, that this type of challenge was going to be so rewarding, but that's how it just happened to be so. And they're my favorite things to work on. And it's just so much fun to be able to, find something challenging, succeed, and at the same time be, rewarded with, as far as it being so lucrative.
Mm.
So it's pretty cool.
Some people in the industry in the last 2 years have, many kind of been culture shocked in a sense. The market is different.
Hmm.
What has been your philosophy of that?
I'm not, yeah, I'm very like so I was working in the mortgage business before 2008. And in 2008 hit, everyone left. I didn't leave. I just made a switch from regular mortgages to reverse mortgages. And I did reverse mortgages for a year, still made excellent income. And that's how I survived. And then I went back to regular forward mortgages. Once the reverses were drying up and the regular mortgage business started taking off again with refinances. So I'm good at pivoting. I pivot where a lot of people left, or a lot of people get discouraged or depressed, and I pivot. So 2023, the rates went up, at a faster pace since, like, I don't know exactly, don't quote me, but maybe since like the late 80s or something, as far as how much the rates went up in a year. A lot of people left, a lot of lenders and realtors left, or just made less money and took a second job or something. I pivoted. I went to the investors, and I did more investor loans, more commercial loans, more investor loans. So I don't know, challenge comes at me, and instead of just getting hit by the dodgeball and leaving the game, I'll dodge it and find a different path. So that's what I've done. So I was able to find sort of a different way to keep up with the income that I sort of need to keep up with,
Mm.
for my bills, for my kids and my family. And I have, like, a lot of bills like everyone can relate to. I couldn't take a big reduction in income. I had to find a solution. So that's what I did. That's what I did, especially in early 2023.
How do you handle pressure? What advice would you have? How to pivot in that way? It's an identity a brand identity or a change?
I your natural reaction to financial stress is you're going to be, have like sort of you're going to be feel depressed, you're going to feel stressed, you're going to feel frustrated. um you have to think about solutions when you feel like that, because if you can feel your stress, you could feel your frustration, your depression, whatever. You could sit with that emotion, but if you think about it all the time, then it's going to take over you. You can't always think, oh man, I had a money problem, I got a money problem, I can't close the deal, I can't close the deal. You can't you If you start thinking that, then your thoughts are going to be the problem instead of the problem itself. So you have to say, okay, you sit with those emotions, but then you say, okay, well, what's the solution? What is the solution? And if it's hard for you to think of it, then write it down. What could be the solutions? What are possible solutions to my situation? The rates went up, there's no more refinances. What's my solution for residential mortgages? Well, I could try to get more deals from, realtors. I could try to move on to a little bit different area in the industry, like investors. Like, write down your possible solutions. See which solution, when you write down, is not just is the most likely to succeed because it sounds good. See which solution is most likely to succeed because you'll actually follow through with it. So for me, I could have just try to meet more realtors, but I thought I love the realtors I have. Instead of spending all my time trying to meet more realtors, I'm going to try to meet more realtors, but my main solution is I'm going to reach out to more investors because I knew I would follow through with that. So be honest with yourself and see what you will actually follow through with.
Mm.
And when that's how you pivot. You got to be solution oriented.
Hey, what was your word for 2024 if you had one? Like a word that encompassed, yeah, the brand for your hero's journey in 24.
Um, I mean, I think the word for me personally would be growth. And I think the word for my mortgage brand would be creativity.
I like
Because,
that.
I feel like on the mortgage side, I've proven to my investors, like that builder and others, that the, you can have the biggest problems in the world, mortgage, I mean, career mortgage wise, I'm saying, with my industry. If you can be creative, you could solve those problems. So creativity, I think, would be the way to do it. And I just want to say, it's never just me. I have a loan partner, named Richard. I call him Richie. He's helps me a ton, because I can't handle everything on my own. And so, I give a shout out to him, and also my clients. There's a lot of times where my investors, they're very savvy, and the investor has the solution. The investor's like, hey, Jeff, well, what if we do this? They can't do it because they're not the broker or the lender, but they'll share with me the idea on how to solve the problem, and I'll say, yes, this is a great idea, this is how we can do it. Something really small, like, very specific. So, I get ideas from my clients as well, and I don't have an ego where I can't take advice, and I can't take, I'll take all the help I can get. Somebody has advice for me on how to be better at what I do, bring it on. Because in my line of work, you never stop learning and you never stop growing. You just
Mm.
don't. That's the other reason why I love it. Like, I'm still learning things. I could teach new guys that do what I do a million things for years, and I'm still learning things. So, you have to be open to suggestions also.
Mm. Jeff, this has been a master class on being, I think, all in on somebody's career, and very inspiring today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for it's like part one.
Yeah, man.
Is there, let's say, people that are listening, they're coincidentally resonate with some of the examples of some of the problems you've solved. How can they best get in contact with you? to build a relationship to potentially bring you into their team?
My cell is 267-969-0520. Um, it's Jeff Winick. I'm with my bank is NJ Lenders. You could Google me and shoot me an email or a text. I brand myself as a Jeff Winick mortgage team, just because I do so much. And I have, like, like I mentioned, those commercial loans I work on, and on top of my residential stuff. But you shoot me a text, I guess, is the easiest way. 267-969-0520. And yeah, just I feel like, listeners should just if they're not sure what they're doing in life or where they want to go, I feel like, thinking about a very challenging problem that they could solve is sort of the first thing to write down. And then, once you realize where you want to be, what industry you want to be, well, how can you still solve challenging problems within that industry? And that's what I've been doing in the mortgage industry, and is solving very challenging loans, and making a name for myself. And because I enjoy it, I don't mind doing, the tough loans, right?
Mm.
And the tough deals. So you just got to find stuff that you enjoy and pursue that. Because I'm always going to tell my kids are 5 and 8, as you grow up, don't do something because you know how much you're going to make from that career. Go towards stuff you're going to enjoy, because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then what's the point?
Jeff, you're the man. You're listening to this, call him. He'll answer. And please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Jay.